Hello and welcome to this analysis of game number 4 from the Cambridgeshire County Championship. This tournament was back in November now, so I realise that I am well behind with going over my on the board games. But next year I will be sharper with it. Every time I have an on the board game, I'm going to make sure I get it analysed and uploaded within a few days, week max. I won't let myself get behind. And yeah, I was on 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss at this point. The Saturday had gone pretty well. Them 3 games, I'd lost the first game, but he was a good player. Probably could have done better, but is what it is. And game 2 and 3, I played really well. Um, so yeah, I was coming to the Sunday happy. Um, we got a close Sicilian position, Fianchetto, just like Fianchetto variation, just like game number 2. But Sunday didn't go so well, and I've noticed that it's a bit of a pattern for me at tournaments that I seem to play well for the 3 games on Saturday, and then I have a really rubbish Sunday. And I am wondering if it's maybe fatigue. A lot of the time I'm travelling to the tournament, which could be hour and a half, 2 hours, playing 3 classical games of chess, which can go on till like 8, 9 o'clock at night, and then travelling back. And so I think maybe just for the next day, I'm going pretty much getting home, going straight to bed, waking up and leaving again. I think maybe I'm just knackered, just fatigued. So it's something I'm aware of, and going forward, I'm gonna either make sure that I stay over. I'm not going to travel these tournaments. When I go to tournament, I'm going to make sure I stop over, so it cuts the travelling out. But also start looking at the 3 day tournaments. So, for example, I'm going to one in Doncaster next month with 2 of the lads from my chess club, and it's a Friday to Sunday. So normally the tournaments I go to, it's 3 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday. This one will be 1 game Friday night, 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday. So you then get the evening to chill on the Saturday, and you're obviously already there, no travelling. So I think that will a bit more costly because obviously it's an extra night in a hotel, but I think ultimately I should reap the benefits of that in my chess. Fingers crossed, hopefully. Anyway, sorry, back to the game. We got this position, which is all fairly standard stuff. And I played h3 here, just stopping his bishop coming to g4. But I don't really need to do this. Sometimes I do this move sometimes even as a bit of a waiting move, but I should really just play f4 straight away, right? Because if he wants to bring the bishop here, you can always just play h3 afterwards. Especially when they Fianchetto like this, he can't go here, so he's now either got to trade, which I would be happy with, or he's got to retreat it. So I don't need to be playing h3 straight away. I can play f4 and wait, but regardless of that, it's not a bad move. h3 is never a bad move in these structures. It's always useful. Stops a piece coming to g4, and once I get f4 in, if I manage to get f5 in, then obviously you've got g4, h3 backs that up, and these pawns become really strong. But anyway, black castled. I got f4 in. We get bishop e6, and I went bishop e3. Now I know the engine always loves, especially when you get this. I used to play the English, which was very similar to the close Sicilian, except obviously you got a pawn on c4, but very, very similar. In fact, identical, other than the fact that there's a pawn on c4. Um, and when you get this, I read Simon Williams' Iron English book, and when you get this knight c6, bishop e6 positioning of these pieces, you always plonk this knight onto d5. The idea being that he can't take the knight because obviously he gets forked. And if he takes your knight, you get this really strong pawn. He's now got to move, and this pawn really strong here, covering these squares. If you ever trade this pawn and force this pawn to take back, then it becomes a pass pawn. But I don't like doing it. I just find it's a bit boring. Maybe in the future I'll go knight d5 when it's later on in the game, but for now I like to just continue developing bishop e3, queen d2, things like that. Maybe try and make progress on this king side. So I played bishop e3. He plays queen to d7, which my opponent in game 2 played, just attacking this pawn here. That needs to be defended. King h2. Black jumps his knight into d4. I play queen to d2, just continuing my development. And black doesn't allow me to continue progressing on the king side. He plays f5, and he challenges me in the center and stops me from making progress. And yeah, we've got a kind of a typical position here, but I didn't really know what to do at this point, you know. Um, so I played this move rook a to b1, which when I analysed the game with my coach, this is where I said, oh, I think I really hate this move rook to b1, and he agreed. He said, yeah, I really don't like this move at all. But actually, when you look at the master database, there's 3 games in this position, and one guy did play rook b1, right? So it can't be that bad. Um, but then my opponent plays rook b8, and we're out of master lines here. So yeah, in 2008, I can't remember the name of the guy, but yeah, he played rook to b1, so can't be that bad. But the idea is I'm just going to, I can't make much more progress on the king side. I don't want to relieve the tension in the centre, so my thinking is right. I'm just going to start playing on this side of the board. I'll play a3, b4, um, and that'll be backed up by my rook. But also, what it does is it gets the rook out of this bishop's eye line. I've had games in the past where, once big trades start to get made and the centre all opens up, this rook can become vulnerable, or even this pawn can become vulnerable. So just moving the rook here, just a little bit prophylaxis, but mainly about expanding on the queen side. The way my coach wanted me to play is to make these trades and play rook e1, which, from a human perspective, because the engine isn't a massive fan of this, and like he said, yeah, but don't worry too much about the engine, which I agree with. He said, but from a human perspective, it's quite simple. You've opened your bishop, you've opened this rook, this bishop and queen are pretty active. You're bringing this rook into the play, and you're just going to play against these pawns, and it's just game on, right? It's not winning or anything, but it's just fairly straightforward. Game on, get your pieces active. The way I was playing it is much more kind of solid and manoeuvry, which is kind of how I used to play in the English. So yeah, he plays rook to b8. I guess. I mean, I don't really know. Maybe he's just thinking exactly the same thing as me. Um, but this is probably more where it starts to go wrong for me. I've just played rook to b1. Like I say, I want to start playing on this side of the board, but I seem to deviate from that and now play knight to d5. I think my thinking was, because obviously this was back in November, so my thoughts aren't too fresh. I think my thinking was I wanted to play c4 before I then start progressing. So I thought, right, I'll stick the knight in, back it up with c4, and then everything is literally closed in the centre, and then I'll play on the queen side. But obviously, black isn't just going to sing to my tune, right? He starts to do his own thing, and he makes a trade, captures my knight. So everything completely changes. He's now he's now putting pressure on this pawn here with his knight and bishop. Um, he's got more central presence than me. He can now push this at some point and open this bishop. But it's still pretty equal. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, when you look at this from a positional point of view, I should be making this trade. 100% making this trade. He's threatening this pawn, right? And I played rook to c1, which is so passive. Just shuffling my rook over one square to defend this pawn. It's so passive. The reason I need to be making this trade is this knight is a good piece, and this bishop is a bad piece, right? So when you look at the board, these pawns aren't going anywhere anytime soon, and they're all on dark squares. This is on a dark square. This bishop has no mobility whatsoever. Whereas this knight is in the centre. It's really good. So just take it. Get rid of your bad piece and take his good piece. I've still got this pawn here, so this doesn't become a pass pawn or anything, so you don't need to worry. Just make that trade. I think the engine's screaming at me to make this trade. I think it's got me with an advantage if I do it, but instead I play the really passive rook c1. It's just little moves like that. At a decent level of chess, just lose your games. He plays queen to a4, building pressure on this pawn, and now targeting this pawn. So I play knight to c3, which defends this, attacks the queen, forces him to move the queen, which he does. I now play a3, just making sure he can't grab this pawn before then moving my knight to e4. So I thought, right, this knight's really good on e4. It's constantly putting pressure on this backward pawn here. He can't kick it any time. He's got no pawns to kick it, so it's a really strong piece. And if he wants a queen trade, I'll give him a queen trade, which he does. And then black doesn't make the same mistake as me. He eliminates a good piece of mine and then plays b6. So black's play is going to be on the queen side here. Why b6 instead of b5? I don't really know. I suppose maybe just to give this knight a way out if attacked. Yeah, I suppose that makes sense, right? Because if not, the only place he's got is here. So that could be why. I don't know. Or maybe he's just making a waiting move. I play rook to f2. Just looking to double my rooks on the f file, and then I'm going to make this trade. He lifts his rook because he's then going to double. I now realise, hang on, I want to be trading this bishop for this knight. So about 5 moves too late, I finally realise and play bishop e3. He doubles rooks. I make the trade. I double rooks. And yeah, we're in. This has just been a typical game of chess where it's not been too exciting. It's not been open and active. It's been a slow positional manoeuvre game. You do get these games now and again. I'm happy to just call this a draw, and this is a complete draw. If I turn the evaluation bar on here, you can see here on the side, it's 0.0. It's dead level, dead equal. I actually offered my opponent a draw, and he said no. And you're probably wondering what Pratt can go on to lose this game from here. Well, don't worry, you're gonna see. Black plays bishop h6, just putting more pressure on this pawn, right? So he's attacking it. He's attacking it multiple times. I can defend it by just pushing it on. But for some reason, and again, because my thoughts aren't so fresh, I can't exactly tell you why, but I didn't like it. I think it might be because of this. After these trades, he plays bishop c1, and he's going to win. He's going to win one of these pawns. I saw this, and I'm pretty sure this is why I didn't play it. But it's still, if I just play a4 and let him take pawn, it's still just drawn. It's an opposite colour bishop endgame. Which means as long as I stop his king from infiltrating, he can't really, even with the extra pawn, he can't really do anything. But I think that's why I didn't play f5 here. But then the thing is, I can always just take with the bishop, right? And then he hasn't got this. So why I didn't do that, I don't know. I really can't remember, and I'm actually threatening this now as well. So that would have been good. But yeah, I didn't. There was something I saw I didn't like. I was getting low on time as well now, by the way. So maybe I just didn't want to get into big calculations and burn my time up. I just played King G2, just thinking, right, okay, let's go to the end game, and my king's going to be more active than yours. I'm going to start running it to the centre. And like I say, I wasn't worried about going pawn down because, like I just said, opposite colour bishop end game, pawn down, doesn't matter. Yeah, we make these trades. He gets his pawn. I just give my king a bit more room to move on these light squares because obviously he's got a dark squared bishop, so I want to start moving around on the light squares and just take some kingside space. He goes bishop e3. We now initiate all the trades, and like I said before, it's a drawn position, right? He can't make any progress here. This pawn's stopping him from making any progress here. He's got a 2-on-1 on this side, but I've got the bishop, which covers the promotion square. So not only does it cover a promotion square, but it can always sack itself for one of these pawns. And yeah, as long as I stop his king from infiltrating, let's say, whose move is it here? I could just play something like h5, because obviously if he takes, I take. If he just moves on, I just take. And if his king starts trying to come into the position, oh, sorry, let's just say we make these trades. I'm just going to come here. His king can't come in. I'm just going to shoulder him. He can't come forward, and I'm just going to stop his king from infiltrating. He can try coming around the other side. I'll just walk my king to the other side. He can't make progress. That's what I'm just trying to show you visually. Even though he's a pawn up, it he can't win the end game. Opposite coloured bishops, you know, you can see there's nothing he can really do. I just give a fortress unless you be a complete idiot and forget about something. Now, I said before, what I realised was he can play bishop c1 and win one of these pawns. I saw that earlier on when I was calculating. But for some reason, I now completely forgot about it and played king to f3. And then he played bishop to c1 and I resigned. I resigned because I can't save both these pawns. Obviously, if you go here, he's going to go here. And if you go here, he's going to go here. And now he's not just one pawn up, but 2 pawns up. So, which means he's now got a 2-on-1 here, and he's got a 2-on-1 here, and I'm probably going to struggle to defend that. I'm very low on time. I've just cocked up, so psychologically I'm not in the right place. I just resigned. I should have carried on playing. You know, if I was really, really stubborn here and played all the right moves, maybe if he cocked up, I could salvage a draw. But yeah, and it was just brutal, really, because this position, like I told you, is just completely drawn. But as soon as I forgot about this, his bishop coming behind and winning one of these pawns, that was it. Over. Is all I had to do in this position was play b3. Get your pawns on light squares. Then you can't do anything. Is all I've got to do in this position is get my pawns on light squares, trade this off, stop his king from infiltrating. So whenever his king tries to, you know, come into this area of the board, I just block him with my king, and that's it. He can't do anything. He can't make progress. It's a draw. But, you know, whether it was because I was low on the clock or and panicking a little bit or what, but yeah, just completely forgot about this bishop coming behind and winning one of these pawns. And as soon as he did it, yeah, I just resigned the game. So brutal way to lose the game. My opponent was, I can't remember, his 17, 1800, something like that. He was a decent player. Um, and fair play to him for saying no to the draw and playing on. He obviously banked on the fact I was going to make a cock up, and I did. Um, and yeah, it's like I say, it was brutal. Um, and I went into game number 5 in a bad place mentally, and that was a brutal game as well. So tune in for that next game, and that next game is an exciting one, to be fair. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you pick some up as normal, and I'll see you for round 5 recap. Thank you.